very interested in the U.S. Army in particular, and the war years of 1940 to 1945. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very well, I guess it might be understated to say it was a very powerful war for so many reasons. So yeah, and I think as you heard, and maybe at the end we can talk and see what kind of connections people have to World War II. People sound like they have relatives who were involved, so that'll be interesting. So yeah. So everyone, welcome tonight to Social Club. Really appreciate it. Our host for the evening is Don Rush. You guys may know Dottie. You may not know them. You may not know Don.
Dottie's unforgettable.
Dottie's unforgettable. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
She is technical support. Yeah. So Dawn is going to lead us through. Well, Dawn, why don't you tell us what you're going to lead us through? I'll leave it to you.
Well, I was going to talk about, I have sitting on a table right here, I have all the equipment that a soldier would have during 1940. And I was going to go through it. And I was going to tell you a little bit about reenacting. I was very interested in World War II history. And I was busy doing my own business. And I said, well, you should be involved with people that are interested in World War II. So why don't you look up to like a reenactor group? And I'd never been in a reenactor group before. And so I did get involved. And I was in actually many different groups I did for about 7 or 8 years. And it was very interesting to learn. Now, reenactors do not like to be called reenactors. They like to be called living historians, because what we do is we try to keep history alive. And we take the things out of the museum from behind the class and actually put them in front of people so they actually touch them and feel them and see what it's like. So that's what we do. And that's why I got very interested in it. Also, the time period that I'm doing is I got to meet a lot of veterans myself. Maybe I may have met your grandfather or uncle that served in the military at one time, but I've met a lot of veterans and I get to ask them questions. Now, the reenacting community, or living historians, it's a very small community, and many of them will do many different time periods. Some will do the colonial wars, some will do Civil War. I think most people are familiar with Civil War reenactors, but a lot of people don't realize that we do World War II reenacting as well. There's a big event in Conneaut, Ohio, where they do the invasion of Normandy, where it's a D-Day landing that involves planes and ships and landing craft and a great big battle. There's a great big camp. Also, they do a reenactment of the Battle of the Bulge, which is the Germany's last offensive in Indian Gap, Pennsylvania. So we keep that history alive. So I was going to talk about the equipment that the soldiers would carry with them. Now, I am in my unit. I was a staff sergeant, and that means that I would be in charge of 12 men. That would be my squad. I had 12 guys. And it was my job to teach them things, everything, how to put their pack together, how to wear their uniform, how to do close order drill, how to march, how to maneuver in the field. And so in reenacting community, the way that you increase in rank is that you have to do everything that person would do in real life. So I had to learn all things that the sergeants do in real life. So I'm going to start out by showing you this packet that I have right here. Let's do this out of my first. This is the pack system right here. You see right here. This is what they call a transport pack, because it has this bottom part. This is a shelter hat down below. And you can see on the other side of the pack, it has a cartridge belt that goes around your waist. And you can see the straps that go on the arms. And there's different things attached to the cartridge belt, as you can see. And I'm going to tell you what all these things are that you see hanging on here and what's inside the pack, okay?
All right.
Raise your hand. I'm glad to answer questions as I'm going through this.
How much does the pack weigh?
Well, that's a good question. How much does the pack weigh? In a transport pack, the pack probably weighs about 40 pounds. And one of the things about the pack, you'll see it as I begin to take it apart, the pack they actually wore into combat was very small and light, and they did that on purpose so the soldiers would not carry heavy things with them. That was on purpose, that they wouldn't let them carry a big pack. This transport pack, this has a shelter half on it. There's actually another part to the pack, which is they would take this great coat right here, big coat, and this coat, and they would wrap them together into a roll, and it would go over top of the pack. And so if they were going to like leave the United States, they get on a transport ship, this pack would be look like this, but then the coat would be hanging down here on this side and this side, tied to it. And it's actually it's kind of heavy. But in most of the field areas, they're going to carry this. And this is what they call the transport pack. And I'm just going to go through the things that are on it. So back right here, we have this first pouch right here, okay? So these are things a lot of times, I don't know, have you guys seen many war movies or seen Band of Brothers? Anybody?
Yeah, hands up if you've seen
I've
it.
seen All Quiet on the Western Front. That's one of my personal favorite war movies. All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, I would say that is the best done war episode ever. It was very, 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 very active. And I fortunately for me, because I was involved in the reenacting, I got to meet many of those guys, the real ones that were in Band of Brothers. I got to meet the Major Winters, and the Shifty Powers and Garnier. I got to meet all those guys in person. And they were quite the characters. They were really. So I'm just going to start.
1939. Before I forget.
What's that?
Have you seen that movie? I think it was 1939.
Yes, I've seen it. Oh my God,
Very good.
I enjoyed that movie a lot. There's unbelievably, they also do World War I reenacting in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and actually this jacket that I'm wearing right here, I was involved in a short movie about the Korean War, where we filmed at the World War I site in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, where they do a lot of World War I reenacting. So anyhow, here in my pack, the first thing I'm going to show you right here is this is the things that they need out in the field to survive. So the first thing is this is a mess kit. This is what they have to eat with, and let's see if I can open it up. Oh, wow. So it's like this. So you have a pan, and then you have this little plate, and then also you have a spoon. Spoon was very important. You have a knife, and you have a fork right here. Now, if you notice, they all have a hole in the end of it, and that is for cleaning purposes. So in the field, they would have this, and even if they're on the front lines, the Army would bring up hot food in special thermoses so they could have warm meals when they're even out in the field. But to clean these tools when they're in bivouac, when they have a camp set up, what you do is you take your mess kit and you use this little ring like this, you put it like that, and then you put your silverware on there like this. Okay, that's how and this is how you clean your tools. They're into your mess kit. Is that they would have trash cans, metal trash cans. One would be filled with water, and it would have bleach in it, and they also had a gasoline heater that would make the water very hot. So you dip this into that main hot water, and then you have another hot water one that's clean water, and you dip it in there to rinse off the bleach and stuff that was on there to kill all the germs. And then you just hang it up and it would dry. So that was one of the ways that you would eat in the field. So it's really important to have that. So that's the first thing right here. So if we're talking about eating, another thing is that you have to have something to drink. As you can see here, I have a canteen. And this went through several phases of different things. During the wintertime, this would freeze, not good. Like the early period ones have a metal cap, this one has a plastic cap. And then also inside my little pouch here is a cup. This cup right here. And this thing is extremely useful. Okay, goes like this. Now it's funny, as a staff sergeant, I would have to teach all the guys about all this equipment. So you can see that the canteen actually fits in here just perfectly. But this is really good. They could heat up food. Even if they had a little bit of food, they could just start a small fire and heat this up and have something warm to drink or something to eat. So that's the cup that goes with canteen.
Don, do you want to take questions as we go through or at the end?
Yeah, you can ask me questions at any time.
Sure. So one of the questions was, what type of food did people eat, kind of in the field or as in camps? And then, so we'll do that one. And then the second one was, how long have you been living historian?
I did living history for 7 or 8 years. And what was the first question?
What kind of food?
Oh, what kind of food? You'll notice when I open up my pack, there's actually there's small boxes of food that was wrapped in cellophane and not cellophane, I mean plastic paper that they're called K rations. And so the troops would live on K rations when they were out in the field. And the K rations would have a little pot of meat in it, like Spam or something. And then they would have crackers, and then they'd have like lemon powder that they could mix in their canteen cup and have a lemon fruit drink. And sometimes they would have a candy bar in there. And many times they'd have what they call a K bar. A K bar was a special energy. They had no food, they would eat this thing last, and it was just it looked kind of like a brownie about this big, but it was jam full of vitamins. And if they had no food, they needed energy to like fight a battle, they would eat this thing. But they didn't like, the troops did not like eating it. They would give it away to other people, to civilians. And the reason they didn't like it is because this was a chocolate bar, and how they kept it from melting is they put wax in it. So paraffin, they had candle wax in it, so it tastes very good. But it was good if you had to eat something. But when they're in bivouac, normally the troops would actually eat pretty good. That is that when they have a camp set up, they could have, a spaghetti dinner. They could have ham cheese sandwiches. So they could have a lot, and fresh fruit. Fresh fruit's probably the biggest thing. When you're eating C rations, the bad thing about it is that there's no fruit in it. And of course, that's not good for your digestive system. So it's better if you're not on the front line and you're eating food in camp somewhere. That's a good question. Good question. So okay, I'm going to keep going here. Okay, can you see this thing right here? This, one of the things that the soldiers had to do as soldiers was to dig foxholes. And this is what they used first in the war, and this is called a T-bar handle. You can actually see it's dirty. I actually use this in reenactment. We actually do battles where we have to dig in, and you have to use this to dig your foxhole. And so it's a very short-handled shovel. This was actually from World War I when they first developed this tool. So it's called an entrenching tool. So every soldier had this. This was very important to the survival of the troops because they had to dig foxholes to get away from the enemy artillery and bullets shooting at them. So this was a very important tool. So they always had this with them. They might throw away everything else except their cartridge belt and this. So that was really important that they had that.
Don, how one of the questions is, how deep were foxholes generally?
A very good question. Foxholes are actually not that deep. They're only about 2 feet deep, about this deep. They're not really deep because they need to get up and shoot, and they need to get up and get out of the foxholes very quickly. But if they're in a position for a long time, they will start developing the position. That means if they're going to be stagnant in that area for a long time, there's other troops that come by that are called the service corps, and they would drop off picks and bigger shovels so they could dig bigger trenches. And so they would dig the foxhole a little bit deeper so you could stand in it and have a step in it where you could step up. And then the next thing they do after they dig it deeper is they would dig communication trenches to the other foxholes so you could go from one foxhole to another. So, so it would get, and then you have a whole trench system. There's a whole way of building a trench system, and then kind of like a zigzag line. So if you're in a position a long time, you develop the position over and over again. Another important thing is like when you put the dirt out is important. Where you put the dirt, this is again what I train troops to do when you dig your foxhole, as when you put the dirt around you, you don't put the dirt close to the edge of the hole. You leave a space about 8 inches. And this is so that you can lay your ammunition along that shelf there. And also the dirt that you're putting up has to be at least 16 inches deep. And the reason it has to be 16 inches deep because 16 inches of dirt will stop a bullet. And then another thing about the digging a foxhole is that behind you, you make the hole higher than the dirt pile up higher than your head. And that is so the enemy, when they're looking at you, they can only see this mound. They can't see your head sticking there. So they don't know where to shoot. There's nothing about foxhole digging. In fact, I do a whole class on foxholes.
Thank you.
All right, so I really want to get rid of this this part of the pack right here. This big thing on the end here is a shelter half, and a shelter half is a pup tent. It's half of a pup tent, and the troops would be 2 guys would have one half. Each soldier would have half of the shelter half, and they would put it together. Let me show you here. So this is the shelter half, and when you unroll it, you'll notice that it has buttons on it right here, and it has holes in it where it's you actually put it together. Like here's the hole for the buttons to go through, and you actually button it. It's not zippers. There's no zippers or anything. So one half is this side of the tent, the other half this half of the tent. And so each guy has half of his shelter half. Now this is an original shelter half right here. It's actually dated 1945 or 1944. Now rolled inside of this thing is also, this is the pole for right here. So that's how tall the pup tent is right there. It's not very tall. It's only about 2 feet tall. And 2 men would lay in this tent. And believe me, I've done reenactments and we are out on bivouac and I actually sleep in this. And some nights it's pretty cold out there in your little pup tent because the front, there's no front part of it. There's only the back end triangle shape. And then I have also here, I have a rope that when I put the pup tent up and the tent goes up here, the tent goes on top of here, then this rope hooks to this and then it's staked to the ground. And you'll also notice in here, I have stakes, wood stakes. Each guy carries 5 stakes. And then notice the shape of this stake. This stake is the same stake that George Washington troops used to stake their tents. Same since 1776 to 1945, they were still using the same stake because it was good. And it's also lightweight. So also in the shelter half, I got an extra t-shirt in there. Because you guys don't want to clothes, okay? Then also I have in here a wool blanket. And a lot of times they because of where they were, they didn't have sleeping bags. And they were out in the field and all they had was this wool blanket. And of course the wool is, gets wet, keeps you warm. So that's why they had wool. And also their uniforms were wool as well for the same reason, to keep them warm. And I've been on reenactments where we're out during the fall, and this is the only thing I had. It was like below 0 out there. And this is all I had was this, my light jacket. But I stayed warm in this little jacket, in this little blanket right here. So, okay, so the shelter half, there's that out of the way. Then also in the pack, let's see here, we'll go inside here. See what else is inside here. So can you think of what would be something you would put in a pack that I think a soldier would need that he'd have inside of his pack? Is there anything you can think of?
I'm gonna say Bowie knife.
What was that?
Bowie knife.
A Bowie knife. Actually, that was a very good thing. No, they didn't have Bowie knives, but they did have, a lot of troops had, it wasn't a Bowie knife, but it was an assault knife that they would carry as well. But a Bowie knife, actually, it would be a better knife to have because it's good for preparing wood. That was a very good thing. What else do you think would be in a pack?
You guys put up your hands if you want us to unmute you and you have an idea. Okay, Candace.
Oh, I was going David because it looked like he was already ready.
Oh, okay. We'll do David.
Yeah.
Water.
Hold on, Candace.
I think
Water?
some
Yeah. So water's in your canteen.
something to keep you warm, like a coffee. So perhaps a bag of coffee to,
Yes.
to
Yes.
keep you warm during the winter.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Carmen's got something as well.
I remember that it was kind of almost like what you have like for breakfast. It's almost like a what's it called? I know the one you showed me, but there's another word of it. It's almost like a pan, like both sides. Do you know what that's called?
Pull on something to wear to keep you warm.
No. It's for breakfast. It's for food. There is a name of a pan that's attached together and also flips. I'm trying to remember the name.
You mean like a cast iron?
I think that it is.
Yeah.
Well,
Talked about, but Melissa's got one.
Here's one of the things they need. Well, one of the things while you're out in the woods is how to keep clean. Keeping clean is a big issue. So this is a toiletry kit right here. So how do you brush your teeth when you're out in the woods? This is how you brush your teeth.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this here, so I have my toothbrush. Here's a toothbrush right here. This is toothpaste right here. And I have toilet paper. That's kind of important. Soap. I have a mirror. Because if you're a man, you have to shave, you keep clean. And this is what this little packet right here is, a shaver. Yeah. And then I have a comb because you get kind of rough out in the field. And then also in here I have extra shoestrings for my boots, and these are legging strings to go on my leggings. So, and this particular one, and then this thing right here, this is a sewing kit. Now on the uniforms, although the zippers were invented, most of the uniforms did not have zippers. They only had buttons on them so that they could be repaired. If you're out in the field and your zipper breaks, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to get another jacket or another pair of pants. But if you have buttons, you can sew the button back on. That's what this is for. This is sew the things back on. So they were thinking about things. Now it's funny, it's like on my very first, ouch, I stabbed my needle in there. When my very first reenactment I went to, I didn't know anything. I didn't know. I had the equipment and everything. I had my pack. And so I'm going to this reenactment. So first I went to what they call a tactical. And we're going to be facing German troops in Pennsylvania on the Shenandoah Trail up on a mountain. And so I go there, and I park my car, and I get in this army truck, and they drive through the woods for about 45 minutes, and they drop us off in the middle of the woods. And they say, okay, your squad's going to guard this trail. And it wasn't like 10 minutes later, we hear boom, 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 and it was lightning and thunder like crazy.
Oh, wow.
And the guy said, he goes, okay, it's dark. There's no, you can't have lights, you can't have flashlights. And the guy says, put your pack against the tree, because then you can fight it in the dark, because you can see the tree, but you can't see your pack. So I put your pack against the tree, which I did. But I also thought, I think it's going to rain. So I put this on. This is my poncho right here. I put my poncho on, and it started raining like crazy. This is my first reenactment I've gone to. And I'm sitting out there and I'm in uniform, I got all the equipment, but I sat on my pack against a tree and I had my poncho on and I had my helmet on. Okay, so I had my helmet on like this, okay? And I'm sitting against the tree like this, okay? And the rain is coming down off my helmet and I would fall asleep, okay? And that was totally dry. But the only thing was when I sat like this, it made a little puddle right here. And then the raindrops would hit, splash my face and wake me up again.
Melissa's got one, I know as well.
Yes, yes. What's your question, Melissa?
Do you carry one of those like things like if you do like campfire, if you like do like campfires around there?
You mean like a flint?
Yeah.
Something to start a campfire, Melissa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they like sleep around the campfire.
Yes, they did, but not in a combat situation. They would not have fires because of the fires would give away your position, the smoke.
Oh.
So only if they're not on the front lines. If they're backs like several miles away from the front line, then they could have fires and keep warm.
Yeah. I have that.
They had lighters, they had matches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have family members in Germany
Yeah.
that were in the World War II. Yeah.
Yeah. Now here's another thing that I have a towel because I have to clean myself up.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I even have a washcloth. So you can hardly take a bath out there because there's nowhere to take a bath. There's nowhere.
No.
So what you would do is use your helmet. Okay. And the helmet, you can see my helmet right here. This is a metal. And so you notice that I have a stripe on here. And this stripe is important to the troops. This, like, when you're walking and you see all these soldiers and they all have a helmet on like this, they go, well, where's the sergeant? Where's the sergeant? The sergeants have a horizontal stripe, but the officers, if they're a lieutenant, like they're in charge of the whole platoon, their stripe would be vertical. And that's how they who's who in the dark. Little extra added information there. But look at this, the helmet has a fiberglass liner in it that comes out. See that? And then the steel pot, they could wash in it. They could put water in it and wash themselves. They could dig holes with it. So the helmet was very useful. And they would cook in it too. They would cook in the helmet, and you could tell, they would say, look, stop cooking in your helmet because it's not, it makes the metal weak. And they would know that they were cooking in their helmets because the straps would burn off. And so you gotta have the strap to keep the helmet on your head. So stop cooking in your helmets. So also I have, these are work gloves. So when you're digging those holes, your hands get really sore, so I have work gloves in here. Now this is a dinner ration right here. Can you see that? This is a dinner ration, and this would be in here. They would have, normally they'd have like two of these in their pack. And so it would have biscuits in there, lemon drink. They had, this one has pork, luncheon meat. It has a bee ration chocolate bar. It has sugar cubes. It has chewing gum. It has toilet paper. It has cigarettes and matches. Yes, that's right. They put, back in the 1940s, everyone smoked. And they would put cigarettes in all the rations. There'd only be like 4 cigarettes in here. So that's what they did. They gave the troops cigarettes. And let's see, is this what we did? No,
So Don, a couple of questions. One question was, when you were in the field or outside, did soldiers have to hunt for their own food if there wasn't enough food?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. For food a lot. And of course, if they weren't going through an orchard or something like that, they would definitely be picking up the the fruit off the trees that they went through an orchard. And so, yeah, they would
Yeah.
definitely not eat other animals. Yes, I see another question.
Okay. I think Bailey, yeah. Bailey, you have a question?
Bailey, go ahead. There you go.
Did you make trench checks before? Did you
Did I
dig a
make
trench?
before?
Trench.
Oh, friends.
Trench.
Oh, lunch.
No. Trench.
Hold on.
French.
Let me say that.
French.
Did
It's okay.
Sorry, Bailey. It's
dig
Take your time, buddy.
trench?
Oh, trench.
tre-
Trench.
gotcha.
Sorry, Bailey.
So Don, have you had to dig a trench before?
Yes. Yes. It takes a lot of effort to do it too, to dig a trench. It takes a lot of work to do. And then it's like after you dig it, and then your commanding officer says, "Oh, we're going to move." And you go, "Hey, I just spent 3 hours digging this hole, and we're going to move." But it's amazing. It's funny. It's like in the reenacting world, they kind of have like two events. One is they kind of set up a camp, and they call it, "This is my gun, this is my pack," and it's just a static display. And people come in, we show them the equipment. And people ask questions about World War II and military history, the soldiers and things. And so we tell them about it. But the other thing that we do that's like a little more fun is we do battles against German units. Now, there are American reenactors. There's also German reenactors as well. And they are very disciplined. And the reason that someone would do a German soldier is they say, look, we need to do the German side to show how good the Germans were. So that you can see how tough it was for the Americans to overcome them, because they were very good. So we do battles against German units, and they are very, very well disciplined. I'll tell you that, very well disciplined. And, it was fun actually doing that, because you're actually hunting them down. It was a lot of fun doing.
Has Dottie ever participated in any of them yet? I just had to ask that.
No. I tried to get her in it. I bought her this really good looking Marine uniform. Oh my gosh. If you could see her in a Marine uniform, she would look really good in it.
Pam's got a question.
So,
Yes.
so I was wondering, so my dad has a pilot buddy who is actually a reenactor in the German side. He has a lot of gear. I don't know if you know Denny Burhands, but he does a lot of. He's got. I've seen he's got a lot of cool of the what is it? Jeeps and things from the German side. But I was just wondering, what is your favorite type of equipment you've seen reenacting?
Great question.
No, when you've been out reenacting those your scenes.
Wow. That's another really good question.
I think you may have stumped him.
Well, I tell you, it's actually a very expensive hobby to be in, but there are people that restore military vehicles, and the Germans have some very good, we did a reenactment where the Germans had many motorcycles, they had half tracks, armored cars, and that year, when we would do battles with them, they would win because they had the half tracks that had machine guns on them and armored cars. So the next year, we got bazookas. And then we were winning. You know what a bazooka is? It's a rocket that takes out the. I have one too.
The most dangerous weapon in the game,
Yeah.
personally, besides the big bomb.
We don't shoot live rounds, but yeah, so yeah. And then that was, I've been on, especially during the wintertime, I've rode in Jeeps and trucks. It's very cold, sitting in the back when you have a heater in the back of the truck or a Jeep, it's very cold. Or even the tanks and the tracks, they're very cold, they're all made of metal, so it's very cold during the winter. And then in the summertime, the metal gets very hot, so I don't want to be on an armored vehicle at all. But I always thought it was pretty cool to see in the field. I remember one time that my unit, we had set up an ambush for the Germans. We were in a road that kind of like zigzagged. So on the one zigzag, we put a roadblock in. So the half track, the scouts came through with the motorcycles, and we let them go by. And then the guys on foot came by, and we knew the armored car was going to come up next. So then we blocked the road, and this armored car comes around the corner and stops. And the guys on the far side of the road that are in my squad start shooting at him with blank ammunition. And he goes to turn his turret around, and then my team, they're pointing at me. They go, "Look on the other side of the road there." And here I am with a bazooka. The guy just goes like this. He surrendered right away.
That's funny.
It was fun.
More questions, I see.
Yes.
Go ahead, Willie.
Yeah. No,
Okay, so Tim, my question is this. How come World War II changes our lives and minorities in the United States than anywhere else in the entire universe?
That's interesting. It's interesting. It was during the war period that the United States really became a world power. And it really showed our ability to manufacture things. And our automobile industry was able to develop tanks and planes and things very quickly. And we sold them to other nations. Now, other nations went broke trying to buy munitions to fight the enemy. And the United States went in and actually stopped Nazism and fascism. They stopped that. They stopped Japanese imperialism because they basically, both of those countries wanted to take over the world. So United States soldiers stopped them from doing that. And in the process of the soldier, not just the soldiers fighting, but the people at home that were making the tanks and the jeeps and the packs and the canteens and everything, that's what won the war for us, and that's what made us a great industrial power. Now, a huge advantage that the United States has is that we were not in Europe, and then we have a natural barrier on each coast. We have the Atlantic Ocean, we have the Pacific Ocean, that these are very tough barriers to overcome if you want to attack the United States. So we were basically supplying all the munitions and the supplies to fight the enemy. So that's how we became a world power.
It was a pretty interesting war.
Yes.
Got a question?
Yes, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah. And at the time before, when we entered the war, it was a very, very, very scary time because Germany in 1940 had conquered all of Europe. And so Germany had all the resources of Europe. They had all their factories, all their raw materials, and they also had at the same time they had conquered both Holland and not just Portugal and I think what other Norwegian country, Sweden, and in Sweden there was the only plant that made heavy water, and there was a German scientist there who's developing nuclear weapons, and they were the only ones that had it. And so they were really very, very strong enemy, very strong, very strong. So it was a very scary time until the United States came into the war. Yeah, so it was pretty scary. And then in Japan.
Carmen's got another question for you.
Yes.
I have two questions, but I'm gonna make this quick. The first question is, what is your favorite obstacle when you started in the army? And my second question is, I know if you don't have TVs or radios in the army, what do you listen to?
Well, I mean, they did have radios during that time period. Radios were still in the infancy stages. As a matter of fact, I have some radios. I could do a whole thing on communications because I have all the communication gear from that time. I have the first radio they call the walkie-talkie that's this big, and the battery weighs 35 pounds to power it. 35-pound battery, yes. And that battery would only last about 10 hours, and then they had to get another one. And what was the first question again?
The number one question is, what is your favorite obstacle when you started in the army?
What's the all I got was obstacle. There's a little echo in my computer here. It's hard to hear the question. Anybody repeat the question for me?
What is your favorite obstacle?
Obstacle.
When you started in the army.
What's the biggest to start when you go in the army?
Yeah. Started in the army. When you started in the army.
What was your favorite obstacle?
Oh, in the training course, Carmen?
Yeah.
Okay, Don, if you do training, do you have a favorite obstacle you've been through on those courses?
Actually, I've been to a lot of training at several military bases, and they have an obstacle. It's called the Leadership Development Course, and it is a room that is probably 30 feet across and 30 feet deep, and in each room there is an obstacle that you have to overcome. And the ideal of the exercise is to learn leadership. So you have 6 people to overcome the obstacle, whatever it is, and you have one person that's the leader. Now I've taught junior ROTC this, and it's funny, these are teenagers, these are all people that are 15, 16 years old, and when they get on that course, they have an obstacle, like they go into the room and there's a wall that's like this. It's very steep and it's like 10 feet tall, and they have to get over that wall. Well, not only do they have to get over the wall, they have to carry an ammo box, which is about 50 pounds, over that wall. And then on top of that, they cannot touch the bottom at all. So they have to plan, how am I going to get over this obstacle? Now the leader has to decide what they're going to do and what they're going to do to get over that wall. And it's funny, like when I was working with these young people doing these obstacles, that everyone would argue back and forth. They were arguing back and forth about, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. And I go, well, you ran out of time, you failed. And then they go, no, Sergeant Rush, we want to do it, we want to do it. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you a second chance to do this. So then they would start doing it again, and the leader would start something, and then someone would peep up and they go, oh, be quiet, let the squad leader speak, and then they would accomplish their task. That was a very, very, very interesting. Now I had, oh my gosh, I had one girl in my unit that was doing the training with us, and she is legally blind. She can hardly see, and she has some physical challenges as well. And one of the things we had to do was we had to go across a rope over a river. Now we teach you how to go across that rope by balancing yourself on top of the rope. You pull yourself across. And then when you come back across the river, there's 2 ropes. In one rope you walk on, the other rope you do hand over hand like this. Now that girl, she went across just like that, straight across, first time on top of the rope. And then when she came back, she fell off the rope. But the guy right next behind her, this is the biggest kid in the whole group. and the girl's name is Melissa. He goes, come on, Melissa, we're going across. And he pulled the rope down, put her hand back on the rope, and got back up, and she started going again. And then she fell off again. And then the guy goes, come on, Melissa. Now her other team members are staying on the dock, and they start cheering for her. Come on, Melissa, come on, Melissa. They would get up, and she fell off like 6 times, but she never gave up. She just kept going and going and going. I mean, I had tears in my eyes watching her do this because she had such a heart to overcome this obstacle that she was facing. And I was like, oh man. And her whole squad, not only her whole squad was like cheering for her. That was awesome. It was a great experience for me to work with young people. It was really, really, really.
You got to record that next time.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Adam's got a question for you.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, do you have a favorite mission or campaign that you guys have done while you've been doing any of your when you've been in the middle of your reenactments?
Yes, as a matter of fact, yes. We had a big battle in Boonesboro, Maryland, and we're going against a German unit that's very good, the 11th Panzer Unit, and they are very, very good. They have jeeps, they have half tracks, they have motorcycles, they have very good troops. And in this battle, I go to this thing, and I'm a sergeant. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in charge of 12 guys. I get there, and my unit, they go, oh, Don, our lieutenant is not here. He did not show up, the lieutenant. Would you take charge of our unit? So then it was like, okay, instead of 12 guys, I now had 40 guys I was in charge of. So I go to the guys who are running the whole, this battle that's going to take place. And I go to them, I say, I'm representing the 29th Infantry Unit. What are we going to do? I said, what's the order of battle? And they went, what's the order of battle? I go, oh no, they don't know what the order of battle is? Order of battle is where the troops go and how they align and how they attack. And so I said, well, who's in charge? And they looked around like this, and they went, you are. So I was in charge of 400 men, not 40, but 400. And I had trucks, and I had half tracks. I had British troops, I had French troops, I had Russian troops, I had military police, I had all these troops, okay? And now the guy that I'm going against, I know this guy because his father's in my unit. And this guy's name is Larry Bopp. And Larry Bopp is a major in the Marine Corps, and he teaches Marine tactics at Quantico. So he's a real Marine. I mean, he's the real deal. He is really good. He knows his stuff. So in that particular battle that I was in charge, I had just read a book on maneuver warfare. And in reenactment, in World War II reenactment, it's more like a Civil War battle because although you're shooting blanks, because you don't hear a bullet going over your head, you don't know, is that guy 2 miles away that's shooting at me, or is he 30 feet away from me? You can't tell because all you hear is boom, 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 ba-da-da-da-da, boom, 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 da-da-da-da. That's all you hear. So what happens to my troops is they immediately go to ground. So the main thing in doing a reenactment is what they call maneuvering. So in this particular battle, I had 3 goals I had to accomplish. The Germans were going to be on the defensive because we outnumbered them. And we had to capture the road net in the center. We had to capture the German base, and we had to destroy all the German units. That was our goal, 3 goals. So I had armored cars. So I sent my armored cars, the first thing in the battle, I sent my armored cars into the woods. I said, go scout it out. And then they came back and told me that the battlefield's like 5 square miles. And he says, the Germans are in the left-hand corner of the battlefield. That's where they're dug in, along a hill. So I said, okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to have my best units go dead center to attack the center thing to get their attention. Then I'm going to have the guys in trucks run around to the left and attack. And these are Russian troops, French troops, partisans. I mean, I got all kinds of crazy people that are reenactors, okay? And I said, I want you to attack, but then I want you to back off and just leave the Russians there, okay? And then everyone get in the trucks, get in the half tracks, go all the way around the battlefield and attack their base. And these are British guys. They said when they rolled up to that base, there were only 2 Germans there. And when all these trucks pulled up with all these British soldiers and half tracks, the soldiers went, they just went, oh, we surrender. So right in the within 30 minutes, I had already conquered my first goal. And then my mainline troops were really pushing the Germans back. And now, because I had troops behind me, I had them in between us. Because they're in between us, they lost. So that was that was one of my best battles I participated in. And it was really interesting to see just the men under arms, because when I first told the troops to move into the woods, they went in single file. And it was like a scene from World War II, when you see 100 guys all in uniform and they're marching in single file down the road. And then you see the trucks and the half tracks and the Jeeps shoot by them. They had to get off the road so they could go by. It was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. It was a great moment for me as a reenactor to be able to do such a neat thing, you know. And of course my troops were really happy because we won.
That's awesome.
So that was really good. So is there any other questions about that? It's like
Sam, you said there was 2 more people with questions.
Yeah, if we have time.
Yeah, I think we have time. Don, you're still good for time?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I know
yeah.
Melissa says she's got one, and I know Senora Godoy has one as well.
Right.
Hey, Don,
Yes.
how many children do you have?
Children.
Children?
Yeah.
Melissa, that was a good one. Sorry, you get a round of applause for that.
Sorry I had to ask that.
Well, do you want to give some away?
No. You ever seen the movie Top Gun? Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I do love kids.
I have kids.
Yeah. Daddy has kids, and they're really good. And I have they're through her, and they're really cute. We're going to see them on Thanksgiving.
That's good enough. We got one last question from Senor Godoy, who I know has been waiting a while for this one.
Okay.
I do have a question. My question is, do you have, during the World War I and World War II, do you have musicians who come to entertain the troops?
Do I have munitions?
Musicians who entertain the troops.
Yes. Yes, they do. They do. It's like, wow, one of the things, in the military, they play the trumpet a lot for bugle calls for telling the troops what to do. So of course, when we're in camp, they always play the music for waking up in the morning. So if you're in camp, the first thing you hear is da 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 da. That means get ready. And then it's that means wake up, get ready. and that, but there's another one they do it's a bugle call that replaces the national anthem. I think most people don't know this, that they, instead of playing the national anthem, which is kind of long, instead of going da 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 da, instead of doing that, what they play what they call To the Colors. And To the Colors goes like this. Let me see, it goes, now I got the riddling in my head. Let me think of how it goes.
I don't know.
To the Colors.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's tough being old because of your brain, so it doesn't work. How's it go? It goes,
I know that one.
Yeah, that's called To the Colors. That is a replacement for the national anthem.
David, you can play on the sax if you wanted to.
That's wonderful to know. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love talking to you guys. Of course, I love talking about World War II. I got more stuff to show you. I can show you my communication gear.
I think that Jason should do a second part and bring you back.
Ditto.
All
Part
right.
2, please. Yes, yes, yes.
They have spoken. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'll raise my hand for him to come back.
I think we're all gonna say yes to that regardless.
I hear you. I hear you. So.
Dottie, you heard that.
Yes, I heard that.
Sign him up.
Good.
Okay. That was a joy for me to talk to you tonight.
Yeah, you're really fun group.
A joy. You guys are
We
great.
try to be.
Well, thanks for your time and your expertise. Really appreciate that. And thank you, athletes, for coming on. So we will invite Don back, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about your relatives. So do some research, find out where your relatives were and what campaigns they were in. And we can come, maybe Don can show us a little, he's mentioned a couple other things he could show us, and then we can talk about that. I think that would be lots of fun. So
Yeah, yes, that would be great.
yeah. All right, good. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Dottie. Thanks.